Jody McDonald and John McMullen, your Mac guys here on Birds 365 after an Eagle win. That's right, an Eagle win. And Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com going to join us to give us some positive reinforcement about. We're not getting enough positive reinforcement here, Andrew. You gotta bring the positive. You were there. You saw the fans going nuts. You saw the press box having to restrain themselves. Or no, it's like, okay, they won, but what the hell is wrong with this football team? What was your feeling? Now, put the analysis and everything else away. Just give me your feeling after the Eagles won that game, the way they won that game yesterday. What was it?
Well, it was the quintessential get right spot for the Eagles. But what really can you glean from a game like that, right? They should have put the Giants away far earlier than they did, guys. You guys all are well aware of that. I didn't think that they were able to play a clean game. I thought that there were some of the issues that have persisted throughout the season. They surfaced once again. And against the better teams that you're going to face in the postseason, that performance is not going to be good enough. It was across the board, sans special teams. Again, that's been a common thread throughout the year. So, yeah, it's good to get back in the win column for the Eagles, but I'm not necessarily sure what you're going to be able to take away from that game and use it to move forward.
Yeah, that was my fear. You weren't going to learn much about the Eagles, no matter what happened in this game, unless they actually lost it, which would have been obviously a disaster. But even if they win by 20 points, like they were dominating in the first half, you're going to say, well, it's Tommy DeVito and the Giants. What does that really mean? However, Andrew, if you look around the rest of the league, who's different? San Francisco got waxed by Baltimore. Kansas City managed to lose a football game, and where the opposing quarterback, at home, by the way, did not complete a pass in the final 3 quarters and lost the game. If the Eagles are a fraud, can everybody rest assured that so is everybody else? So may the best fraud win.
Well, yeah, I don't know that there's a dominant team this year. I think you've seen the up and down play throughout the year. I mean, from across the board, John. But to me, I think the 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens are the class of the NFL, but they're beatable teams. But while they really sort of dragged their feet yesterday and played, or I should say the 49ers,
yeah,
they've played more. They played closer to a more consistent level throughout the season than we've seen the Eagles play throughout the year. So it's kind of difficult to think that just because they stumbled up yesterday, that all of a sudden that the Eagles can go to Santa Clara, let's say, and beat them playing the way that they are right now. I think that there is some troubling things that are beneath the surface here with this team, John, and you and I, and we'll probably get into it here. Yeah. But coming out of a win, it just didn't feel. We were in there yesterday. You didn't get the sense that it was like a winning locker room. It was really odd. It really was a weird vibe going on there.
Yeah,
Andrew, I want to ask you about the quarterback, because there were 2 plays yesterday, one positive, one negative, that kind of made the day for Jalen Hurts. The first on the negative side. Right before half, pulls the football down, decides to run, can step out of bounds and give himself another shot at the end zone and he gets pulled down in bounds. And he tries to get an extra yard when the obvious play had to be run out of bounds. Mm-hmm. He gets lucky in that the Giants try and hold him to the ground to watch the clock run out, and the referees throw the flag. So at least they got gifted a field goal. That's just a bad play by Jay. Just a flat out bad, foolish, not smart football play. And then there's the completion on 3rd and 20, in which he throws a dime right to A.J. Brown. Extends the play, perfect pass over the defender between he and A.J., and he just lays it out there for him. The yin, the yang, the good, the bad of Jalen Hurts. Where are you at with the Eagles starting quarterback right now?
Yeah, well, that first play you mentioned, Jody, was just such poor situational awareness. That's atypical of Hurts. And they got fortunate, like you said, that they got called for a delay game, holding them down. Otherwise, I don't know if they get any points out of that.
Right, they got shut out.
But on that 32-yard completion that you were referring to, I thought Jalen did a tremendous job on a play where he normally, by the way, would flee the pocket and try to pick it up with his legs. I thought he was patient. I thought he stepped up in the pocket and took what the defense was giving him, which was a cushion to A.J. Brown, trusted his best player to make the play there. This is what you see, the good and the bad with Jalen. I think last season you saw a much more consistent quarterback, but you are seeing the signs of the player that many who felt that were regressing. You're seeing the signs of the great player that he was last season.
Now, I would say, and you brought it up there, Andrew, the most disappointing thing to me about Jalen's performance was overall, you mentioned the biggest play of the game. However, man, he's flushing out way too soon.
Yeah.
Not climbing the pocket. He's just immediately flushing out, usually right or left, though. And when you do that, obviously you're cutting the field in half. It makes it easier for the defense, and a lot of times you doesn't have to. That's the point. You climb the pocket, you manipulate the pocket, and you tend to make big plays down the field, as he did on that 32-yard pass. He's not doing that consistently. But
Yeah.
especially in 2021, it's an issue again. Sometimes it's not even pressure. He's just bailing.
Yeah, from a just a mechanical standpoint, and some of the issues and the characteristics that were blemishes to his game in 2021, John. Like you said, fleeing the pocket, the being hasty within the pocket, dropping your eyes, not going through your progressions. Those are things that you started to see surface throughout the year, but you've also seen signs of the 2022 Jalen Hurts. So I think that this is a classic case of a player pressing and trying to do too much within the offense, putting it on his shoulders because it just seems largely disjointed for various reasons. And I think that he's taking ownership of it and just trying to do too much. And in doing so, you're seeing you're seeing a lot of his old characteristics resurface in some inopportune situations.
All right. Now, if Jalen is putting too much pressure on himself, and the standard is what the standard he said too high, he can't achieve it. John gave you the quote from earlier in which he seems like
it's a very manipulative thing to the
double-edged sword.
Sometimes. Yeah, man.
Right.
Does that sound like somebody having fun?
Not to me.
Yeah.
But putting Jalen aside for a second, because he's still relatively young in his career compared to some others, and he might be asking too much of himself in life. How about Jason Kelsey? Probably the most beloved player here in Philadelphia, the veteran guy who holds everything together right in the middle. Another bad penalty yesterday. And it's like a weekly occurrence now with Kelsey that something crops up and we just immediately write it off because, well, it's Kelsey. All right, yeah. All right, fine. Move the football 6 inches. Except you're not allowed to move the football 6 inches. He knows it. Everybody knows it. He does it anyway because I guess he's Jason Kelsey. They did not pay the price yesterday. But Jason also, is he another one of those? The standard was too high and the pressure's getting to him. Do we really have to chalk that up to the superstar center, the veteran guy, the leader of the Philadelphia Eagles, that he is also succumbing to the standard?
Again, he's another player that you look at. He's a captain. He's one of the faces of that offense. He's another one that I feel is feeling the pressure of an offense that isn't living up to expectations. And he too is a culprit in this whole thing. But I think that you're seeing him try to place too much of an emphasis on him being one of the focal points of that offense, Jalen as well. And they're just doing too much, and they're getting away from the details and from some of the key pillars that made them so successful last season. It's really uncharacteristic to see that, but you're also seeing it reflected in the running game. He seems to be a tick slower than he normally is. You're seeing him lose matchups that he typically doesn't lose, and you're seeing penalties that he doesn't typically commit. So that to me seems like a player that is pressing as well.
Now, with Jason, I got to be honest with you guys. I think he's been getting away with it so long. That's what happens with savvy veteran players. He didn't try to steal 6 inches, Jody. He's tried to steal 3/4 of a yard when he's taking the football. And he's done that stuff. And he moves the football and he manipulates the football more than he should. And teams complain. They say, watch Kelsey, watch Kelsey, watch Kelsey, watch Kelsey. And now they're starting to call it a little bit, and he's got to adjust to it. But he's always been doing that kind of stuff, and it has served the Eagles well over the years. And when they make it a point of emphasis, you got to adjust though, and I think he certainly needs to do that.
Yep.
The larger picture, as you alluded to, Andrew, when we went in that locker room. Now, in hindsight, I saw it this morning, clips put together. Looked like Hassan Reddick was coming over the sideline late in the game after the personal foul penalty to talk to Jeremiah Washburn, his position coach. And for whatever reason, Nick Sirianni's yelling at him to
Yeah.
get back on the field. And I don't know. From there, it looked like Devontae may have gotten involved, maybe a little bit. AJ, after the game, AJ's not talking to the media, which is very rare.
Reddick wasn't even in the locker room. By the
No,
way.
Reddick has not talked a lot this year. That's been an ongoing thing. We thought it was contract related earlier, but he's not talking. Devontae was having a long discussion with Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelsey with Jalen Hurts. What did you make of that locker room environment after a win?
It was definitely awkward. That's why it felt like it didn't necessarily feel like a win, because there was so many more questions that you left with that game than you had answers. And you saw a couple of different locker room pillars having conversations. And I think that was just, I mean, the way that I took it, at least, was them trying to keep things together and trying to figure out where things, sort of came apart at the seams in that game to make sure that doesn't happen, because the postseason's right around the corner. They can't afford to have anything internally eating away at this team at the most inopportune time. So, I mean, I was just about to ask you what you took of, we mentioned Kelsey and Hurts. Kelsey was doing most of the talking when he was sitting in Hurts's locker for at least 10 minutes. And that to me is two of the offensive focal points, trying to figure out how they can right this ship as time sort of waning here. The AJ thing's a little weird to me because he led the team with 11 targets.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it was about targets.
No, I don't. I think it's deeper than that. And you've seen AJ have different flare-ups or different taking exception to certain things throughout the season, and you just think that was something that was maybe festering beneath the surface. Nick Sirianni, to me, it seems like all fingers seem to be pointing to Nick Sirianni here as far as the any sort of underlying thing maybe going on beneath the surface where players maybe aren't necessarily the most thrilled.
Let me ask you about what you think Matt Patricia done. 2 weeks now, gets thrown in, not all that late. It was a Tuesday from all the reports we have. Then the players knew that Patricia's going to be taking over, and he's got till Monday night. Then you have another full week till Monday night. Yes, and down holiday time, so not as much time as they like. Just evaluating the defense from where Patricia took over to where they were at the end of the game yesterday. You can't tell a difference, slight improvement, pretty significant improvement, drastic improvement. You actually think the defense is worse? How would you describe 2 games into the Matt Patricia era, what you've seen as far as changes to the defense go?
Yeah, status quo. And like I spoke with you guys I think it was last week, I firmly believe, and I stand behind that, I think Sean Desai was a scapegoat, and I thought he got a raw deal. The defense looked exactly the same under Matt Patricia. The pass rush still is not getting home. There's still back-end coverage lapses. I mean, Reed Blankenship was the most recent example on that 69-yard touchdown to Darius Slayton. The personnel is the personnel, and like John has said, it's always players first before coaches. It always is. And if you don't have the personnel to run your scheme, it's going to look much the same. There's not a whole lot you could do. There's no reinforcements coming. This is what you have to work with. And to get – they didn't get necessarily picked apart by Tyrod Taylor, but he found the openings, and there was a couple key drops. Darren Waller.
And by the way, if Reddick didn't get to him, but if he didn't hurry, Tyrod Taylor, Darren Waller was – he was going. That was a good throw.
You mean the one earlier in the game?
Yeah.
And there was another play.
A touchdown.
There was another play. It was either Waller or Bellinger that Eli Ricks was trailing him, and they just couldn't connect. It was an erratic pass, but he had a step, and that could have been a big play in the second half.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know what tangible changes you're really going to see with this personnel or with the coordinator change.
Has Jalen Carter hit the wall? I mean, he's not playing. He's not hustling off the field. He's not used to playing a lot at Georgia. It's the time of year where college is almost over. Now, he played late because he was always in the college football championship, but still, He looks gassed. He doesn't look like the same player.
He certainly doesn't. And I think, I mean, that penalty that he had was inexcusable. And you don't see the same disruptive nature. You don't see the pass rush up the middle. I even look at last week and that key moment and that final play of the game. Well, obviously the Eagles didn't know that was going to be the final play of the game where Bradbury gets beat by Jackson Smith and Jigba. On the field was Moro Ojomo and Milton Williams. You didn't have your young cats and Jordan Davis. You didn't have Jalen Carter. And you didn't have your veterans in Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. That to me speaks to someone, younger players who may be gassed. They're not used to playing this late in the season. Certainly not excusing that. But to John's point, to sort of reconcile or figure out a reason why Jalen Carter's play is sort of tailed off a little bit. He just seems that the whole D line, for that matter, really seems like they're pretty gassed right now. But he hasn't made that much of an impact, really.
Except Reddick, who's getting yelled at, and he's the one getting yelled at.
Reddick continues to be tremendous, and he's the only one that's been a consistent force all year.
Yeah,
and why he's getting yelled at, we're not exactly sure. Like I said at the top earlier in the show, you guys, I need to have it confirmed this morning. Josh Sweat did dress yesterday, right?
He did.
He was part of the. Okay, just didn't notice him. I just had to make sure they did dress. Jonathan Gannon coming home. Andrew, what does that mean? Can he rally his Cardinal troops? Win one for the Gipper or the Gannon? Call it whatever you want. What kind of resistance you think the Cardinals are putting up this weekend against the Eagles?
Put it this way. I think the Cardinals, as close as yesterday's game was, I think the Cardinals with a better quarterback who can put unique stresses on defenses. Now, I'm not saying Kyler Murray's all world, but they have enough there offensively to put stress on the Eagles. And Jonathan Gannon obviously knows this team very well. I think he'll be up for this game, certainly, but I also think that Nick Sirianni will. Sometimes Nick Sirianni, when he's up for a game, could go the other way where he's too ramped up and it trickles down to his players. But I think Jonathan Gannon's going to come in here looking to play spoiler, and the Eagles are going to have that fine attention to detail if they want to get a win, because I don't know that it'll be easy.
Yeah, Kyler makes it a little bit different. Certainly, it's interesting if you look at the Arizona Cardinals, and obviously not only Jonathan Gannon, but Nick Rollis as the defensive coordinator was here. I know when they played Kansas City, they blitzed a heck of a lot. And they're blitzing more than when Jonathan was here. Why does everyone not figure out that Nick Sirianni's the reason why the Eagles play this scheme?
I thought it was Sean Desai's fault. I thought it was him being passive. I thought it was Gannon being passive. No, they're going to apply some pressure, much like what we saw last night, John, with Wink Martindale. They're going to have to account for it. They're going to have to figure it out, because Gannon, like I said, he knows the quarterback very well. He knows the offensive line very well, and I think that he's going to apply pressure and look to make a point on New Year's Eve.
All right, last thing from me, Andrew. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm not a run the football guy, okay? We all have our definitions of run the football, and Philadelphia just in general has this attitude of just run it down everybody's throats, and I'm not that. But the last 2 weeks I have been saying they need to be a little bit more run heavy. They need to emphasize it a little bit more. Yeah, I've not been a big Kenny Gainwell fan. I'm not as anti.
You had a good game, Kenny. Kenny had a good game.
Quez Watkins, one offensive snap.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not as anti Kenny as I am Quez, and I was happy to see the non-activity of Quez Watkins. Yesterday they pushed the buttons correctly, perfectly, as a matter of fact. DeAndre Swift is your lead back. He carries the ball more than anybody else. You get Gainwell into the game for change of pace and keep the defense a little off balance. And yesterday they did it perfectly as far as I was concerned. Who gets credit for that? Brian Johnson, Sirianni, the
Jeff
running
Stoutland.
back coach. Who should get credit?
Jeff Stoutland. I think it's a combination.
That's right, running game coordinator.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think Singleton also he really blended together his top two running backs and found a way to hit that 1-2 punch. And you also have to look into the play into it with the Giants, and they're not exactly they're not man beaters, world beaters as on the defensive front trying to stop the run. And they also didn't have Raheem Nunez Roches, who was really their primary run defender. But I think it was just more so committing to it and leaning on that throughout the game. It wore down the Giants, and that's what you saw. But I really like the way that they used the two running backs. DeAndre Swift, certainly not a closer. The Eagles don't necessarily have a closer. Well, they're inactive every week, Rashad Penny. But I thought that DeAndre Swift shows that he still has plenty of juice left.
At Andrew DiCecco, make sure you follow Andrew on X, Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, InsideTheBirds.com. Now, I see you got a nice backdrop. I know you're visiting family. So, number one, thanks for
Sure
stopping by with us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Are you in Jersey? Did you tell me you were going?
I am in Delaware.
Delaware.
Yeah.
So you probably don't. I was wondering if you found out where Brian Daboll dumped a body when he whacked Tommy DeVito at halftime.
The Tommy DeVito shaking down a family-owned pizza joint for extra money while he could get the money.
That was his Sopranos agent. That wasn't Tommy. Tommy did it for the agreed-upon price. Let's not beat up on Tommy.
The DeVito camp, shaking him down.
And they got by the way, Daboll has not committed to his starter next week yet.
He better.
He said that he pulled them because they were stagnant.
Needed a spark.
Tommy Cutlass was horrendous.
Oh, it was bad, Jody. It was like, why am I leaving my family to watch Tommy DeVito? It made me rethink all of my career choices in my entire life.
The best part of yesterday was having a nice ham dinner with Johnny before the game, because that Tommy DeVito performance was deplorable.
They put out a nice spread for you guys. That's good to hear.
Yeah, the carving station. Yeah, well done, Eagles. Not Cowboys like, but well done.
Well, it's a good thing that it wasn't Cowboys like, because the Cowboys came up small on the day before. Andrew, thank you very much for hopping on with us. We appreciate you carving out a couple of minutes on this holiday time. I took advantage. He sent me a text yesterday. So I'm texting with him. I might as well ask him to come on the show. So I took advantage. Problem. Thank you very much for not getting obnoxious with me. You could have, because I was being obnoxious. Thank you very much for jumping in with us today. We appreciate it. We're getting you on again once the playoffs roll around.
Anytime, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, bud.
Pleasure. From InsideTheBirds.com and InsideTheBirds.com podcast. Andrew DiCecco here with us on Birds 365. All right, so they put on a holiday feast for you down there at the link yesterday, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I got there kind of late because I was, I had to stick with the family a little bit. So I got there later than usual, and I didn't eat until right before the game.